Hello everybody, this is Monty with Flowers by the Bunch. Today we're going to work on a centerpiece for Christmas, just a simple faux flower centerpiece. I'm going to start out with a little green design bowl. These are very inexpensive at your floral wholesaler. If you do not have a green design bowl, it's okay. Use any bowl that you have available. It doesn't matter. It's not going to show. So this is going to be a low compact arrangement, so your container is not going to be seen. I'm going to take just a piece of green hard styrofoam. I'm going to take it, and I have cut it to the size that I need to fit in my bowl. I'm going to take it and dip it into my hot glue. So this is a glue pan, one of my favorite tools in the floral business, because it's so handy and it works perfect for any faux arrangements. I dipped my foam down into that glue, and then I'm pressing it right down into this container. Next, what I'm going to do is take a little bit of Spanish moss. Now you could use any type of moss that you wanted to. Spanish moss is just going to help cover my mechanics. I just don't want that green foam to show. So I'm taking a little bit of that moss and I'm covering up that foam. And I'm just tucking it right down all the way around that foam, just to kind of camouflage that foam. Next, what I'm going to do is take some faux greenery. So this is kind of sparkly faux greenery. It's just really kind of pretty. It has a little bit of a sparkle to it. I've got a cedar and then a holly. I'm going to take some wire snips that I didn't bring in this room. I'm going to take some wire snips, and I am going to just cut my stem apart into smaller pieces. So I'm just cutting it into tiny little pieces, and I'm dropping it on the floor. I'm going to take, now this is exactly what you would do if you were making a fresh arrangement, but you would use fresh floral foam instead of the hard styrofoam. But again, I'm just taking each stem and repeating the process, just sticking it right down into that floral foam. Okay, there's our Christmas greens there. Next, we're going to come in with some of the faux holly. Now, to me, this holly is beautiful. I love the sparkle, and it does have those pretty berries, pretty red berries. So I'm just going to fill in where I left off with the cedar, taking and cutting it into tiny little pieces, and just going all the way around. And anytime you're working with faux flowers and you know you're going to cut them into smaller pieces, often you will find that the most cost-effective way to make an arrangement or several arrangements that are artificial is to buy a beautiful garland that you can cut up in lots of little pieces. But you can see on this stem, I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cuts out of it. So 6 small insertions, because I can cut it up into tiny pieces. And often you can get an artificial garland that you can cut up in lots of pieces, and it be the most cost effective. And you get to use that same type of greenery all the way through. If you're making an arrangement for your mailbox or a centerpiece or what have you, you can use that same greenery because you've got plenty on that garland. All right, so there's our holly. And I know you can still kind of see the moss, but it's okay. I'm going to come in with some more flowers and we're going to be able to cover all of that up. Next, I am just going to use, let me set this to the side. I am just going to use a pretty artificial bush that we have in. This one has some pretty peonies. It has some pine cones, a few little poinsettias. So I'm going to take and cut some of the, look how pretty that flower is. Such a lovely flower. So I'm going to take and cut that stem short, dip it in that glue, and press that right over into our arrangement. This also has a little bit of faux greenery. So I like to just leave the greens on that stem and I just push them all the way up to the bloom. Dip it in that glue. Press it right down into that floral foam. Next I'm going to come in with the pine cones. So this little bush had pine cones. I am going to pull the greens off the pine cones just because I don't love those. So whatever you like, leave it on. Whatever you don't like, pull it off. It's completely okay. I do love that these pine cones are already glued to the stem, which make it so easy to use. And so you can see it's just as if I am arranging fresh flowers. You're just going to make sure that you go all the way throughout the arrangement with your flowers and your pine cones and your greenery. Okay, so this is a steel pick machine, and a steel pick machine just helps me to put really sturdy stems on the bottom of flowers. So far we've got some really pretty creamy colored peonies, and then we've got some pine cones and mixed greens. I have this beautiful, this is a hydrangea that's in a really pretty ruby red. It has a little bit of sparkle down in the center of each bloom. Now the problem is that when you cut pieces off the bloom, it's not very sturdy stems. So that's why I'm going to use my pick machine. And I have an old pick machine. It doesn't even have its handle left on it. And it doesn't matter. It works just the same without its handle. I'm going to load a pick, and then I am going to add a pick to the bottom of that stem. Now, it's just a little metal pick. The problem with this pick machine though is that these picks are very sharp, so always be very careful when dealing with a pick machine. So I added that sturdy little pick on the bottom. I'm going to dip that in glue, and then I'm just going to press it right down into that foam. It just picks right down into the foam. And you can see I just added a few little blooms and added my pick. Dip that pick right down into the glue and just pick it right over into my arrangement. Now what happens with this though is it makes this one hydrangea go all the way throughout this arrangement. And I threw it on the floor. But it makes it go all the way throughout this arrangement. So I can just take a couple of the little florets, add a pick to the bottom, just like that, dip it in glue, and press those little blooms right down into that silk arrangement. Now, a customer wanted me to add some ribbon to this arrangement. So I do have some pretty ribbon. I'm going to add a few more blooms of this. All right, so there's some pretty red hydrangea tucked in. Next, we're going to tie a bow. Set that to the side. So she chose this pretty plaid, just a pretty traditional plaid ribbon. And I'm just going to tie just a few loops. So maybe 2 loops, 1 on each side. Take a little piece of wire. So this is for just a little round breakfast table, very simple. I'm just going to use the wire to pick it into. I'm going to dip that wire right down into my glue. I'm going to take those the ends and the end of the ribbon, and I'm folding it in half, and I'm going to cut a dovetail just to give us a pretty finish on the end of that ribbon. Very simple. So there's a little piece of that ribbon tucked in. I'm going to come around and add a little over here to this side. I love that pretty red and the white and the gold. It really blends so well. Now, a centerpiece like this would be beautiful with a small candle in it. If you wanted to pick a candle over into the center, you absolutely could. I would probably use an LED candle that was on a timer or had a little remote control. I've always found timers and remote controls are always the best because if it doesn't have a timer, it's hard to remember to turn it off and you run down the batteries every time, and that's no fun. That is no fun, just taking that end of that wire and dipping it right down into glue. Pressing that bow right into our arrangement. I'm going to add a little bit more of this hydrangea. But you can keep adding as much to the arrangement as you would like. Of course, the ribbon itself can be customized. Everything in the arrangement is very simple to customize to your decor taste. You can add fun little picks, creative little picks to your arrangement, change your ribbon out, whatever. But there is a very simple arrangement, perfect for your dining table, your breakfast table, even an end table or a coffee table. Guys, thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions about how we do things here at Flowers by the Bunch, you can always ask. We would love to answer your questions. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up, and if it was useful, we would love to know that. If you would do me a great big favor and hit that subscribe button right down below. If you'll hit that little bell, it'll give you notifications for when we have a brand new video. Thanks, guys. See you soon.